Following Japan's discharge of nuclear wastewater from the Fukushima plant, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, inflamed nationalistic sentiments among its citizens. Some expressed their anger in extreme ways. At the International Atomic Energy Agency's annual meeting on September 25th, among its 177 member states, only China voiced opposition to Japan's decision to release the treated water into the ocean. Ironically, while the CCP bans the import of Japanese seafood, Chinese fishing vessels have been spotted fishing off the Japanese coast, selling their catch as, quote, Chinese seafood domestically. According to the Global Fishing Watch system, which tracks vessels using the Automatic Identification System, or AIS, a large congregation of Chinese fishing vessels were identified approximately 1,000 kilometers off the coast of Numuro City in Hokkaido. While the Fukushima wastewater was being discharged, an estimated 146 to 167 Chinese vessels were detected fishing daily alongside Japanese boats, catching seafood such as Pacific sauri, mackerel, and sardines. On September 22nd, Rahm Emanuel, the U.S. ambassador to Japan, shared images on the embassy's official social media platform showing Chinese fishing boats off the Japanese coast with, quote, China prominently displayed on their hulls. Although seafood caught by the Japanese vessels couldn't be exported to China due to the ban, it seems seafood caught by Chinese vessels in Japanese waters could be sold in the markets as, quote, Chinese produce. Japan's fisheries agency revealed that the total fishing haul, including that of China, from the beginning of the year to mid-September was more than double that of the same period last year. The CCP's decision to fish in Japanese waters comes after an August report by the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, which deemed Japan's wastewater disposal procedures safe and in line with international nuclear safety standards. While the CCP outwardly continues to oppose Japan's wastewater discharge, this report suggests that they have acknowledged its safety. Ambassador Emanuel further commented on social media, quote, 1 month later and 0 tritium was detected in the Fukushima waters according to Japan Fisheries Agency. Seems like China got a jump on the news. No wonder they continue to catch fish in Japan's exclusive economic zone, wrote Emanuel. They have a choice between fiction or fact, and they choose fiction so they can keep fishing. Everyone can see through China's smoke and mirrors. Simultaneously, at a press conference for the new Chinese consul general in Niigata, Cui Weilei remarked, quote, I bought and ate fish in Niigata, and it was delicious. He added, quote, I try to eat more meat. I don't believe a meal or two would reveal the effects of contamination. Of course, this should be based on scientific facts, not personal feelings. Making such statements during the CCP's complete embargo on Japanese seafood potentially undermines the party's official stance. Political commentator Li Lin-yi stated, quote, the new consul general's public remarks might be aimed at improving Sino-Japanese relations. However, these statements have been made almost concurrently with the news of Chinese fishing vessels operating in Japanese waters. On one hand, the CCP alleges that fish caught by Japan are radioactive and unfit for import, while on the other, fish caught by Chinese boats can be freely sold and consumed. The CCP's hypocrisy is glaringly evident. While praising the taste of Japanese fish, the CCP continues its vehement denunciation of Japan's wastewater discharge, thus revealing its double standards. At a recent International Atomic Energy Agency assembly in Vienna, Austria, 177 countries discussed Japan's plan for releasing treated nuclear wastewater. Out of the 133 countries that spoke during the 3-day general debate, only China explicitly criticized Japan's decision. In contrast, other nations expressed understanding and support for Japan's measures. Chinese Representative Liu Jing, during the debate, labeled the treated water as, quote, nuclear-contaminated water, claiming that its release could endanger the marine environment and human health. He described Fukushima's discharge as an unprecedented major nuclear safety issue, criticizing Japan for insufficiently transparent information and reiterated China's opposition to the discharge. However, available data suggests that China's own nuclear contamination issues are far more significant. For instance, the Guangdong Taishan nuclear power plant, a joint venture between China and France, had a radioactive leak in June 2021, which the CCP initially denied but was later confirmed. Currently, China's 49 nuclear power units also discharge nuclear wastewater into the sea. In 2022, certain plants had notably high tritium emissions, much higher than neighboring countries such as Taiwan, Korea, and Japan. Online sources also allege that China's use of uranium-rich coal has caused significant air pollution, leading to widespread allergies and packed hospitals. Even worse, the residue from this coal is turned into construction materials, transforming countless buildings into radiation sources. Despite the Chinese population being constantly exposed to this contamination, the government has taken minimal action and refrained from publicizing the issue.
念给您听，高油煤就是高含放射性油的煤炭，因为放射性油对环境污染是永久性的，没有一种办法能够把散布在环境中的油有效去除，其放射性半衰期长达45亿年。由238对变中间产物之一放射性氡222是引起肺癌的罪魁祸首，只需要极微量吸入肺中，其裂变就可以打乱其周围的肺泡细胞的基因序列，发生癌变。有些国家和地区颁布了地方法令，限制和禁止高铀煤的开采，含油量超过50%的煤炭被严格禁止开采使用。10%到50%间是限制开采，低于10%不加限制。携带高放射性的煤挖出来，最终是在火电厂烧掉，或是在制造水泥和钢铁之中消耗掉，或者是提供城市供热烧掉。其中放射性油不会消失，而是全部以烟尘、废灰和建筑材料的形式散发到环境中，造成放射性污染。有些地方燃烧高铀煤，不光是散发放射性油烟尘污染大气，更加糟糕的是有关方面想变废为宝，提倡绿色环保的结果是把燃烧过的煤灰焙烧制成建筑材料，制成房子让千家万户居住。这样的建筑砖材携带有大量的油，源源不断堆变成放射性的氡，释放到室内。
Political analyst Li Linyi remarked, quote, "While remaining passive about its own dire environmental issues, the CCP has taken the global stage with its banner of protest condemning other nations. This further exposes the CCP's reprehensible facade to the world." The outcomes of the International Atomic Energy Assembly suggest that the international community is already well aware of the CCP's tactics in manipulating public sentiment. This is evidenced by China being the sole nation opposing Japan's nuclear wastewater disposal plan. For the Chinese public, discerning the CCP's strategies remains a challenge due to the restricted public discourse in China. Ever since Japan announced its intent to release the treated water, the CCP has been inciting domestic outrage over the discharge, even encouraging its citizens to harass government institutions, businesses, and residences in Fukushima. The propaganda against Japan never ceased. Platforms controlled by the CCP, such as Sina Weibo and Baidu's search trends, consistently highlighted topics related to Japan's wastewater disposal. State media amplified these sentiments with articles titled, quote, "Japanese nuclear contamination discharged into the sea, the public can tolerate no more," selectively sharing foreign criticisms to generalize the entire narrative. Under CCTV news posts on the wastewater issue, nearly 150,000 comments uniformly condemned Japan. Influenced by this propaganda, netizens called for, quote, boycotts of Japanese food and even expressed desires for, quote, Japan to vanish. Viral videos showed that on the evening of August 24th in Nanchang, Jiangxi, mainland protesters gathered in Baiyi Square to protest against Japan's wastewater disposal. A young man waving the Chinese flag led chants of, quote, "Down with Japan" among the crowd. Online, a massive number of Chinese netizens called for a boycott of Japanese products. A poll conducted by the CCP's Xinjing News asked if participants would continue eating Japanese cuisine. Out of 92,000 respondents, 81,000 said they'd refrain due to safety concerns. While the CCP inflamed national sentiments, it also inadvertently stirred panic within its borders. Japanese restaurants in China felt the repercussions. Some rebranded to avoid backlash, while others reassured customers that their seafood wasn't imported from Japan. Misinformed Chinese citizens, fearing nuclear radiation, began panic buying table salt, thought to counteract radiation, and radiation measuring devices. Many netizens wondered, what is the CCP's true agenda in vigorously tarnishing the topic of Japan's nuclear wastewater disposal? Australia-based scholar Yuan Hongbing told the media that the CCP's hype over Japan's wastewater release is a political ploy with a clear objective: to counter Japan, especially on the issue of the Taiwan Strait. Yuan explained that on August 18th, the US, Japan, and South Korea held a trilateral summit at Camp David. From an international political perspective, many believe this meeting signaled the establishment of a mini NATO in East Asia. The primary aim of this alliance is to counter the global expansion of communism, specifically focusing on the situation in the Taiwan Strait. Should the CCP initiate conflict in the Taiwan Strait, these three nations would strategically retaliate. Quote, "The CCP's intention is to fan the flames of nationalism, counteracting the political, economic, and cultural exchanges between Japan and Taiwan," he said. In an attempt to stoke nationalistic hatred among the Chinese people, the CCP seems to have a twofold objective. On the one hand, it seeks to isolate Japan diplomatically on the international stage and tarnish its reputation. On the other hand, it aims to leverage its influence in Taiwan to sow discord between Japan and Taiwan. The ongoing anti-Japan protests online and offline in mainland China can be seen as political theater orchestrated by the CCP, driven not by genuine concerns for the Chinese people's well-being, but by the CCP's political ambitions. Beyond these political motives, the CCP's intensification of anti-Japan sentiments also appears to be a diversion tactic from its own internal governance crises. This year, China has faced myriad challenges: economic downturns resulting from real estate market collapses, fiscal crises, banking failures, and increasing unemployment rates. In terms of food safety, toxic mooncakes, tainted milk, and harmful takeout food items flood the market, posing significant threats to Chinese citizens' health. On the environmental front, poor air quality, subpar drinking water, and contamination from nuclear radiation and toxic gases are increasingly undermining the CCP's governance credibility. In order to divert public attention from these pressing issues, the CCP has often resorted to distorting the image of other nations, positioning itself as the hero in a sea of external adversaries. Canadian-Chinese author Sheng Xue suggested that the CCP has long portrayed Japan as an adversary. Any incident that can be exploited for propaganda is seized upon. The ongoing vilification campaign is made possible because of China's lack of freedom of speech and press, leaving the general populace with limited access to unbiased information. Sheng Xue further states that whenever the CCP's rule is threatened, it redirects domestic discontent toward external enemies. Democracies are often painted as adversaries. Given China's declining economy and rising unemployment rates, particularly among the youth, the CCP seeks to channel this widespread discontent towards Japan. This isn't the first time the CCP has employed such tactics. For example, in the CCP's flagship news program, Xinwen Lianbo, the narrative often praises China's achievements in the first 5 minutes, followed by 25 minutes of negative reports on other nations. As a running online joke goes, the positive news about China in the first segment is mostly fabricated. With the Japanese nuclear discharge incident, many mainland citizens began to see through the CCP's propaganda narrative. According to reports from major Japanese media outlets, the All Nippon Airways recorded a 90% occupancy rate for flights between China and Japan from October 6th to 9th. Despite the CCP's aggressive campaign, it failed to dampen Chinese citizens' enthusiasm for traveling to Japan. The CCP's worst fear is an informed populace. Once citizens are no longer swayed by misleading news and shifts their attention to domestic issues, the CCP's misdeeds will come under scrutiny. In response, the party has tried to pivot its narrative, going as far as suppressing, reducing, and even removing anti-Japanese propaganda content. Apart from the increasing awareness among its citizens, Japan's countermeasures against the CCP's disinformation campaigns have also raised alarms within the party. Tokyo introduced an automated voice response system for incoming calls from China, which repeats, quote, "Japan's tritium emissions are lower than its neighboring countries," hinting at China. Japan's push to earmark 200 billion yen to support its fisheries, reducing dependency on the Chinese market, further neutralizes the CCP's tactics. In conclusion, the CCP's recent disinformation campaign against Japan has backfired. Not only has it failed to tarnish Japan's global reputation, but it has also further isolated China on the international stage.